Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's October 27, 2022. It's a Thursday. Looking out my window here in Barrio Capitolio, Pasig, it's going to be a sunny morning, but do not be deceived because there are reports that a tropical depression named Paeng is making its way towards the Philippines, either in Eastern Visayas or Central Luzon. And from the looks of it, this tropical depression is moving quite slowly. So unlike typhoons, this one will probably make our weekend a wet one. But don't let the rain or water spoil your fun. We can always enjoy whatever the Lord grants us. So make the best of it. So anyway, let's get on with our program. Thank you very much to those of you who are subscribers of Cignal TV. Maraming salamat po sa inyong patuloy na pagtangkilik. Your continued support of the program of Cignal TV is very much appreciated. And to those of you who watch Agenda via facebook.com/OneNews, and to those of you who chase after us on YouTube and who also watch our replays, maraming salamat po. And also those who download Cignal Play app. Today we will start our daily starter with a very interesting statement from a person named Amber Veal. Okay? Para po sa inyo. For those of you who regularly like to get into arguments, discussions, or who want to convince people about your point of view, I think you should listen to this. Okay? And Amber Veal says, before you argue with someone, ask yourself, is that person even mentally mature enough to grasp the concept of different perspectives? Because if not, there's absolutely no point. Now, in the common language or in the Tagalog, okay, bago kayo makipagtalo, bago kayo makipag-away, magdiskurso, debate sa isang tao, siguruhin muna ninyo na yung kausap ninyo ay bukas ang kaisipan o bukas ang tenga na makikinig. Because we just automatically assume that people we are talking with or who can speak English or very communicative is also at the same level of our perspective or our mindset. And half the time, the people we have an argument with or debate with, their minds are closed. In fact, I remember that saying, some people listen, hear not to listen, they hear not to listen, but in order to reply. Kumbaga, nakikinig lang para mapaghandaan yung pambara o pangsagot nila. So, always remember that. In fact, someone told me, also, it is unfair. It is unfair to have an argument with something who is not mentally competent. Okay. Anyway, let's now move to the front page of the Philippine Star, October 27, 2022, Thursday. And the headline goes, BBM doubts NBP middleman died of natural causes. Okay. The president, when interviewed by journalists in Malacanang, was asked what his impressions were or thoughts were on this very confusing assassination of Mr. Lapid. I think Percy Lapid, the president said, well, I don't believe that he died of natural causes. We already have the toxicology report, but I don't want to meddle because I will just add to the confusion. So that's the point of the president, and the president has asked for the authorities to do a thorough investigation and unmask the mastermind. And going to the top of the front page, 6.4 magnitude quake jolts northern Luzon. An earthquake of magnitude 6.4 rocked mostly Abra province and affected approximately 54 to 56 school buildings, office buildings, and the belfry of a very old Iglesia Independiente Church in Abra. A photo there shows firefighters stand beside the damaged church after the powerful earthquake in Ilocos Norte yesterday. Okay, and then to the left of the front page, you have LPA develops into tropical depression Paeng. Don't be depressed because the weather is already undergoing a depression, and the weather office, or the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Sciences Administration said that Paeng could intensify into a tropical storm today. So if it's sunny out there, this could be the sun before the storm. Please prepare and please take care. If you have plans of traveling, especially up north, think twice about it, because the worst thing that can happen is you're planning for a great vacation, a great weekend, and end up stuck inside the hotel room because of the storm. Okay. Meanwhile, the AMLC can pursue source of the 550,000 paid to gunman. Okay. That's two different stories there, but it was attached to the doubts of the president regarding the middleman that died of natural causes. According to former Senate President and former DOJ Secretary Frank Drilon, the Anti-Money Laundering Council can easily look into the source of the 550,000 pesos paid for the contract killing of journalist Percy Lapid. According to Drilon, this has historical precedent, and that the Court of Appeals has generally acted on this matter, if not the RTC. I don't know if it's a Court of Appeals that can only act on this, but it has been done many times and proves to be very helpful in investigation. Meanwhile, the middle photo of the front page of the Philippine Star is a photo of President Bongbong Marcos welcoming World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, who paid a courtesy call on President Marcos at Malacanang Tuesday, and posted by the Office of the Press Secretary on Facebook. According to President Bongbong Marcos, primary health care is the priority of his administration. Further down in the on the front page, we have a story. Marcos defends appointments of Cascolan and Soriano. Former Philippine National Police Chief Camilo Cascolan will handle administrative matters at the Department of Health, President Marcos said yesterday as he defended the retired general's appointment as DOH Secretary. The president also defended the appointment of film director Paul Soriano as an advisor for cultural matters and promoting the arts. Okay. And to the right of that, Philippines improves in rule of law. The Philippines has apparently improved, okay, in its ranking because from 102 out of 139 countries last year, the Philippines improved to 97th out of 140 countries included in this year's index on Wednesday. However, it was pointed out that we are only a little better than Myanmar and Cambodia. Okay, Myanmar is under a military rule, and we just fared a little better than they do in rule of law. Okay, meanwhile, that photo below that story, police officers assigned to the Manila Police District motorcycle unit prepared to leave the MPD headquarters along the United Nations Avenue to go on patrol duty during heavy downpour on Tuesday. You know, that is a reality of today. It is more efficient to go about in a motorcycle, and perhaps it is a strategy that PNP Chief Azurin should adopt, because kung tatlo-tatlo, if there are 2-3 police officers in one air-conditioned, fully tinted patrol car, just not moving or parked in a mall, that's not really police presence. Okay, so the bikes, congratulations, MPD. Meanwhile, the photo to the bottom right is a modern world needs modern solutions. Aboitiz Data Innovation harnesses DSA to power Aboitiz Group's transformation, become the Philippines' first tech-glomerate. Okay. And last but not the least, Maynilad customers hit by supply cuts in the last month get rebate at beginning with 65 pesos, rebate starting next month. So, ayun po, okay? You're going to get some money back for not getting money, not getting water. How ironic. Okay, that about covers the news on the front page of the Philippine Star. May I invite you, please read the Philippine Star, get a copy, the hard copy at the corner of your village or residential area or online, because there are so much more news and information, not just in hard news, but business, sports, fashion, and entertainment. Okay, now let's go. I think we will go directly to our featured interview today. And our featured interview is about a person who gets posted in so many countries. He's been posted in several countries. He has an interesting job. And some people probably envy him because he gets so much cultural experiences, etc. On the other hand, some people would say he is either very creative or he is a problem solver. And you know, while it is nice to be needed, I wonder what it's like to live your life having to travel so often, especially on your family. Okay, let's get to know our guest this morning through this video. Gabby, if you would, please roll out the Betamax.
Henry Wilson is the general manager of Merck Healthcare Philippines. He has 20 years of experience in the chemical and pharmaceutical field, having worked in the UK, Germany, China, and Singapore.
Good morning, Mr. Wilson. Welcome to the program agenda.
Hi, good morning, Cito. How are you doing?
I'm fine, and I hope you're feeling likewise. Thank you for giving us time this morning. And this is part of our agenda to give people a better understanding about other people, other culture, other businesses, and in other countries, what does my father do for a living? So in your case, people would say, is he a traveling salesman? Is he a crisis manager? We've already given a hint that you've spent 26 years, so many years in pharmaceutical and chemicals. But how did you start out? Let's go back to your educational background, and from whereabouts did you originate?
Yeah, thank you. So I hope people can tell from the accent. I'm British. My educational background, my working started in the UK. And actually, when I was at school, I never really knew what I wanted to do. I don't think anybody does at a young age. And I was either going to choose sciences or languages. And I came into school one morning, and in the UK, at the age of about 16, you have to make a hard choice about where you will study. Mm-hmm. And the sciences table looked more interesting. So I walked over there, I put my name down, and decided to study sciences. Then I was actually lucky enough. I think a lot of people know that university education in the UK can be sometimes expensive.
Yes.
And I was lucky enough that I was able to find a job with a company where they sent me to university part-time. So for 4 days a week, I would go to work, and then 1 day a week I would go to university and study. So I actually studied to be a chemist. My first degree was chemistry with chemical engineering many years ago now, but I can still remember at least a little bit of the chemical engineering. And then after that,
funny you should mention that. I hated having to memorize the charts and the codes of the elements. Oh, how I hated those pavilions and the smells.
Yeah, that's something which people say to me a lot. I'll actually make a confession here, which is I think a lot of people assume that because I studied chemical engineering, I might be good at mathematics. I'm actually really bad at mathematics. I was able to just learn enough to pass the exams. The chemical elements and the aspect of being in a laboratory, I always really enjoyed at that time. Okay. I think you understood quite correctly that I'm quite curiosity driven. And for me, the lab was always an interesting place where almost anything could happen.
So you're in university, but what was that job that you took that allowed you to get a part-time scholarship or at least go to school? What sort of job is that your first job, and what was it?
Yeah, so that was my first job. That was as a research chemist at the time. So I would spend the 4 days a week in a laboratory with a white coat, and at that time making chemicals that would go to treat water. So it was chemicals where when you flush the toilet, the water needs to be treated to separate out and clean up. And we made a lot of chemicals that went into that space at the time. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I saw this because my chemistry teacher rang me up one day and said, hey, there's this local company. They have this program. Maybe you'd be interested. And I went and interviewed, and yeah, the rest, as they say, is history. So I was very fortunate to be able to find this. But it's something which the industry in the UK, at least, and I believe many other countries do this to support the education, development of colleagues. They're very open to exploring opportunities to educate and work at the same time.
Okay, what was your secret at surviving that? Because many have tried and failed. Even in my past, many people have tried to be athletes and also study. Some people have had to work and study. And for most, the outcome was disastrous. You either had to give up one in order to excel in the other. What secret did you have that you managed?
Yeah, so I think there are two things that come to mind when I think about that. The first is the positive side of failure. So again, a dirty little secret is so in the UK, at the age of 16, you take some exams, and then you take more exams at the age of 18. So you do GCSEs and then A levels. In my GCSEs, I did very well. And I thought when I started to do my A levels that I didn't need to do any work, that it was going to be easy. You know, I just got good results. So, you know, I enjoyed my time, let's say, outside education a little bit more than I did inside education. And I didn't do very well in those exams. I got 2 C's, a D, and an E, actually. So I almost failed. Mathematics was the one where I got an E. And it was really important, I think, to have had that failure, because I was able to learn at a young age that actually failure is such a positive experience. I took so much learning from that at that point. And I said to myself then, I'm never going to let this happen to me again. And so I really doubled down when I went to university. Of course, managing a job, part-time university was very difficult. So that leads me on to the second point, which is time management. So really being strict with time management and thinking, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to focus on this now for the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever it takes. But at that time, I need to set it to one side and I need to move on. So really failure as a positive experience and time management with
failure as a positive experience, not allowing failure to define you, but you also said something, double down. You realized that when you took it easy, it ruined you. And so you had to double your efforts and made it as a positive experience. So that's a good lesson to start the day. Now, okay, moving forward, wait a minute. You said you relaxed a bit. So where did you relax? In the pitch or in the pub?
Yeah, so at that age in the UK, relaxing was done in the pub. So the town where I grew up was very small, actually. I grew up in a town of about 15,000 people. It was this kind of town in the UK. If you see the UK on film and you see these really beautiful little villages full of trees and small lanes with cars driving along them, they're also usually full of pubs. And so, yeah, I enjoyed my social time in the pub.
Which part of the UK was this?
So this is in the north of the UK. So about halfway in between Leeds and Manchester, 2 major cities. There's an area called the Yorkshire Dales. So I'm from Yorkshire.
Okay.
And yeah, this was a small town in the Yorkshire Dales, growing up on a hillside.
That's mostly countryside, right?
It is, yes. So yeah.
Forgive my geography, but I've been to the Cotswolds, where James Herriot established himself as a world-known veterinarian. Was that anywhere near that area?
No, unfortunately, no. It wasn't very close.
Opposite, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, so you grew up between Leeds and Manchester, two centers also renowned for their football teams. Now, which team did you belong to?
So when I was young, actually, I was lucky enough that a friend of mine had tickets to Manchester United.
Kind of figured.
And so I used to get taken to the matches quite often. When they weren't using their tickets, we used to get taken. So I used to go and watch them. I wouldn't say that I was a fan of the club, but I was a fan of football in general. You know, I think most British people are generally fans of football. We enjoy the game a lot. So
yeah, I mean, you had the perfect British life. If I would base it on the movies, you grow up in the countryside. You are in a town that has so many pubs. In between 2 renowned football teams. And most guys would stay. They would say, hey, born here, live here, die here. This is the life. How did you end up becoming a world traveler, a global executive, etc.
Yeah, so I guess it really started when I got to the end of my first degree. I decided that I wanted more. Like I say, I was very driven by curiosity. I have a love for learning, and I wanted more. So I decided at that time I was going to go away and study a PhD. I didn't move very far. I only moved about 45 minutes away to Manchester for my PhD. But the other advantage in that area is that the north of England and Manchester in particular has a very deep culture in industry. We had a very large cotton industry there many years ago. ICI, a former chemical pharmaceutical company, was based in that area. And so what happened was a lot of those people went to university and lectured. So the learning, the education you could get in that area in the sciences was fantastic. And then as I came to the end of my PhD, I was, of course, looking for another job and deciding what to do. My supervisor at that time, Steve Yates, he said to me, "Hey, you know, somebody that I used to work with has a job in Merck. Maybe it would be of interest." So I traveled down to Southampton, which is on the very south coast of the UK, southwest of London, for the interview there, and I was lucky enough to get the role at Merck. And I've been with Merck ever since. But like you say, I've been really fortunate to be able to travel across many countries in my time. So really started with Merck there, and again, I was very curiosity led. So I started off in Merck also as a chemist, but I felt again that there was something more that I could be doing, something more that I wanted to learn. I went to university and I did an MBA, again part-time. Working during the days this time and studying during the evenings. So I had no evenings or weekends for 3 years whilst doing that. But that allowed
why,
me to...
Henry? Sorry to interrupt, but why? I mean, you know, some people, because there's an ongoing debate about that. You already have a PhD. Why would you spend your evenings and your weekends for 2, maybe even 3 years just to get an MBA? Is it something that's really crucial to go up the ladder internationally?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, at least, a simple answer. So the answer for me is no, it's not needed. I think the benefit for me was when I looked at the business world, the operations side of our business, you see people who do marketing, accounting, strategy, lead people. And I thought some of that looks really interesting, but I don't know enough about this. And the really nice thing about an MBA is you get to do a little bit of every subject. So you become what we call a jack of all trades and a master of none. But it allowed me to experience lots of different subjects and really define my interest.
In short, you understood the chemistry side of the business. You understood the product side of the business, the organization, but not the marketing, promotions, and public education. So at least the MBA somehow helps to make sure you're not the only ignoramus in the room. Okay. Anyway, Henry, let's go for a quick break, a 1-minute break, and we'll jump right in and let's talk about the company you're with and why Merck and why stay at Merck and what does Merck do. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and joining us this morning as we continue in our conversation is Merck General Manager or Merck Healthcare Philippines General Manager, Henry Wilson. Okay, Henry, so you pointed out the value of an MBA. It's not necessary or a prerequisite, but it helps to familiarize you in different facets of the business. Now, could you familiarize us with Merck Healthcare, particularly in the Philippines? Because I read in the data your team sent me is that you're not just for human healthcare products, you're also in animal healthcare products, and quite interesting. So you joined Merck as a research. You started in research, and then you went to Germany. You've been to China, etc. Could you just tell us all about the company, please?
Yes, yeah, of course. So I'll start at the very top. So Merck is a 354-year-old company. If you go to our headquarters in Darmstadt, you can still see what they call in Germany an Apotheker, an apothecary, a pharmacy, where our business started in 1668. So very deep history for the company. Still majority family owned as well. So we still have the Merck family in the business, and they take a deep interest in everything we do. And we really have three major pillars of our business. So we work in healthcare, which is where I work. We also have a business in life science, and we also have a business in electronics. So in the life science business, this is really about supporting researchers to develop products with technologies that will allow them to go on and develop their science. In electronics, we often say that we're the company behind the companies. So lots of our chemicals go into, for example, liquid crystal displays, go into the background of electronics. So in people's phones, you'll find a lot of our either materials or devices that have been made using our materials. And then finally, there's the healthcare business, which is where I'm based. And in this business, we have four main focus areas. But really what we do is we're about creating, improving, and prolonging patients' lives. And that's where all of our products are focused. So really across a full life cycle from the very beginning to the very end.
You know, that's the beauty of this job. You know, it's like going to a daily class, an MBA, for so many years, because I learned from different people. I mean, I never realized that Merck produces chemicals and materials that go into cell phones, computers, and the likes. These are for the, in my time, we used to call it for the chips, etc., and the boards, circuit boards, but I don't think there's any more of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people sometimes don't know this about us as a company. You know, what we will tend to do is we don't make our own electronic devices. We make them in the lab to test, but we will partner with companies who make those devices. So the names that you're more familiar with seeing are the consumer electronics companies are the ones with whom we partner in that space.
Okay, and this is not a backyard business. I mean, you know, the supplying these materials to the electronics industry results in billions of EU or dollar transactions, correct?
Yeah, it's quite a healthy business, but I think like every business has during COVID times, I think we've all struggled to some degree. So, you know, but we're constantly innovating there as well. So constantly trying to bring new products to people to help improve people's lives. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of research that goes on in there. And I'd say the one thread which continues throughout the entire business is really curiosity and quality. So, quality in the healthcare business is just as important as it is in the electronics business, where when you turn on your phone in the morning, you open your laptop, you want it to look fantastic, you want it to work first time. And it's really important to have very, very high quality materials through all of these businesses.
Yeah, but the same goes for medicines or healthcare products.
Yes.
I mean, I certainly would like to be secure in knowing that if I take a medicine for diarrhea, that it stops the diarrhea.
Yes.
I've been a victim of fake medicines in the province when I was out of town. So I am a hardliner when it comes to, making sure that products are authentic. Now, going to healthcare, what sort of products does Merck? You have to forgive me. Me when the pharmacist gives me something, I don't even ask or look anymore. At my age, I've stopped reading brands because they're so small, so tiny. I need a magnify. But what products does Merck carry, or what are your primary products that help secure the health of Filipinos, or globally?
Yes. The four areas that we divide into, the first one, which is the most important for Philippines, I also, really recognize what Bongbong Marcos said when he met the WHO representative about primary health. Mm-hmm. So a lot of our portfolio here is focused on primary health. We have products in type 2 diabetes, in hypertension, and in thyroid disorders. And these are some of the most common disorders that people have, not just in Philippines, but globally. Being able to treat these patients and have them healthy, fit, healthy, working, solving their problems with diabetes or hypertension is really important. So we have a large focus in those three specific areas, not just Philippines, but globally, prolonging life. So those products really fit into the space of improving and prolonging. We also have some cancer medications as well. So we have some medications for colorectal cancer. So the intestinal area just below the stomach, head and neck cancers. We also have a portfolio of IVF medications that will help people to create life. Those are the main areas that we have that are a business for us in the Philippines. We also do have another major area. So we work in what we call neurology, where we have products in multiple sclerosis. Now, luckily in Philippines, multiple sclerosis is a very, very rare disease. We still serve patients in that space like other multinationals do as well. But luckily, it's a very rare disease in Philippines. So our main focus of the business here is diabetes, hypertension, and thyroid disorders with the products in cancer treatment and IVF.
Okay, now, as far as your organization goes, how big of an organization do you have globally and locally? Because, unfortunately, the pharmaceutical industry is not one that gets a lot of coverage. I think there are legislative restrictions on advertising and activities, plus the global rules on corruption and influence peddling, etc. I mean, you guys have such strict rules, it's not even funny. But how big is Merck abroad, internationally, and in the Philippines?
Yeah, so globally we're around 60,000 people, 60,000 people, spread across many countries. I think it's just over 60 countries where we're in, and we actually deliver products to more countries than we're just based in. So we have third-party businesses where sometimes we won't act in a country, but we will supply our products through other partners for those countries. Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned, the healthcare business, we have to be really careful, cautious about how we act. We have to maintain the highest ethical standards. Jeanette Yakasalem a few days ago mentioned this as well, and completely aligned with that view. That we have to have extremely high ethical standards. You'll have noticed, actually, I mentioned no product names when you asked me about our areas.
Yeah.
That's very purposeful.
Okay, but so if I had actually badgered you and pushed you, come on, Henry, I need to know what are your products so I can buy them. You could actually be sanctioned or be censured for mentioning it on air.
So there are risks here, yes, to doing so. We can't advertise our prescription products to the public directly. So we will talk generally about the areas we operate, and rather than talking about the products themselves specifically.
And because also internationally, the practice is the prescription or the suggestion on specific brands and medicines are at the hands of the physician and not the manufacturer.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and it's important as well. So I referenced the talk that you had with Janetta a few days ago. Our aim in the healthcare business is to keep the physicians as up to date as possible on the science, on the new products, tell them about the benefits of certain products, so that they're very, very clear. So you will have had an experience when you walk in and you see a doctor, that doctor is making the correct prescription decision for you individually as a patient, because healthcare really is an individual matter. You can't say broadly often, this big group of population should be taking medicine X, Y, Z. So the doctor has to make that decision. And the best way for them to do that is that we collaborate together with them to help them to understand the new products or the new therapy areas, the latest research. So just last night, for example, we had an event in Makati. We had, I didn't see the final number, but we're estimating around 600 doctors joining, not only in Makati, but virtually across Philippines. We had 9 locations joining virtually all across Philippines. And we spent the time from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. talking about a specific therapy area and trying to improve the level of education, sharing. We had questions that other doctors could pose to each other to say, hey, I have a patient who has this and this and this characteristic. How would you treat this patient? So fostering a lot of learning across the doctors as well, so that we can really promote that education so that the right prescription decision is made.
Yeah, and it's interesting how even COVID and technology has changed the industry practices, because in the past you would usually have to host scientific events and training programs in different regions. And that would be susceptible to criticism or suspicion of lobbying. But now, with the online process, everything is transparent, and even the authorities can join in and monitor whether or not there is some hanky-panky going on.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's one of the great benefits that COVID has really brought. Again, kind of looking at this concept of learning from times which are not so good, to take the good from them. We've really learned that a lot can be done through engaging online. I know that Filipinos, for example, are the highest users of social media out of any country in the world. So that desire
that can go both good and bad, believe me. But anyway, sorry to cut in, Wilson. We'll go for a very quick break, a 1-minute break. When we return, a little more about the local operations, which you're now heading as general manager, because we're down to about 12 minutes. So we'll go for a break. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Okay, welcome back to the program agenda. With us today is Henry Wilson, General Manager of Merck Healthcare Philippines. Okay, Henry, we were talking about the operations of Merck at the top, but going into the Philippine scenario, you're now the General Manager for the Philippines for Merck. What has the experience been like? You came in March this year?
Yeah, so I actually, my move to Philippines was delayed. Unfortunately, COVID has put a lot of restrictions on us. So I took the role in March of last year, but I didn't move to Philippines until August of last year. So August the 8th last year was when I arrived. There were some border closures. It was quite difficult to get a visa during this time. So my physical wanting to learn and to help. So it's really been a fantastic experience moving to Philippines. I think my only regret in a way is that we haven't been able to travel around Philippines as much as we would have liked as a family. But hopefully now that things are easing up a little bit, we've seen some moves to improve tourism in Philippines. Hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of that.
Well, as the saying goes, stick with me, buddy, and I'll show you places. Anyway, tell us about Merck Philippines. What's the company profile? Are there a lot of Filipinos working in your group, etc.?
Yeah, so overall in Philippines, we're actually almost 1,000 people now. So we don't only have a healthcare business here. We have a life science business as well. So I referenced the life science business earlier. But we also have what we call a shared service center. So in that shared service center, we have colleagues who work in human resources, in finance, in IT, a number of other areas that support other countries from the Philippines. So, for example, if you're having a problem with your expenses being paid and you ring somebody up for support, you're often ringing the Philippines office to do that.
It's like a business processing center in the Philippines, but only servicing Merck associates and Merck affiliates.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So, wow.
Yeah,
that's a good thing to know.
Yeah, I have another colleague, Alni Edan. She's the managing director for that bit of the business. So I sit with the commercial business, and she looks after the business process outsourcing type of business that we have here. So yeah, it's quite a large footprint we have in Philippines, and really fantastic that we also have many different nationalities. So in order for us to be able to serve other countries, we also have to have some native language speakers from those countries in our business here in the Philippines.
For instance?
So for instance, we have colleagues from India, we have colleagues from Indonesia, Thailand, plus a few other countries, so that if they need to do anything in the local language, they can do it directly in the local language with those other colleagues.
So it's primarily generally, Henry, generally in the region, not global.
Oh, also globally, actually. So we have colleagues who support the US business. We have colleagues here who support the business that we have in Europe. So we have 3 shifts. We're open 24 hours a day, supporting all over the world. But one of the advantages of being here in Philippines is the quality of English that's spoken is exceptionally good. So because our business is primarily done all in English, having the English-speaking colleagues here is very helpful.
So the profile and services has changed radically because back in the days, pharmaceutical companies were simply drug retailers to doctors. And primarily women in very short skirts and very good looks. How about in Merck? What is the composition? Well, I really hate asking the gender question, honestly, because I'm married to a Dutch lady who studied in England, so those things don't have any bearing. But for media purposes, what's the gender divide or composition in Merck, and what are the roles played by women, Filipinas, or are they also foreign women in leadership?
Yeah, I must say I also agree. I think it's also time for us to think about diversity beyond two genders. It's important to recognize that there are people nowadays who are gender fluid. If you'll see people on LinkedIn, of course, now a lot of people have the pronouns that they use. So he, him, his, she, her, hers, they, them, theirs.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have to recognize that as being a part of diversity. But so around 2/3 of our colleagues in the healthcare area are female.
In the Philippines?
Filipinos. So I'm one of only 2 foreign nationals in our part of the business. Obviously, the shared services is different, as mentioned, but within our part of the business, I'm one of 2 foreign nationals. All the rest are Filipinos, Filipinas. And when we look at our leadership, actually more than 70% of our leaders are female and all Filipinas.
Okay. Is it easy to get into Merck? I mean, I think you know what I mean, because, there are these notions that, I can't join a multinational corporation. They have so many requirements for certifications, degrees, etc., and specialization. So people just kind of, they might have had the chance, but they'd rather not.
Yeah. It's a very good question. So I wouldn't say it's easy, but I wouldn't also say it's difficult. I would encourage people to view, if we see certain requirements within a job description, some of them I think you can see would be quite necessary. So if you were going to go into the lab like I did at one time and do chemical research, of course, a background in chemistry is kind of required for that. But it doesn't have to be so deep. When I first started working in a lab, I didn't have a lot of lab time, honestly. And I think what I look for when we're hiring for people is I'm looking for people who have a hunger to learn, a desire to do the job that they're looking to do. And I think these kind of soft characteristics for me are a lot more important than the pure qualifications. But I think we have to recognize that at some jobs, some levels, there are some minimum requirements to go in, but I would encourage people not to let that bother them so much and just try. I mean, the worst that can happen is the recruiter will say you're not suited for the role. That's the worst thing.
Yeah. In our time, one of the attractions was travel. If you join a company, because there was a high probability that you would get international exposure or get to be assigned abroad. You've been assigned to you've lived in Germany, you've lived in China, in Beijing, you've lived you're now living in the Philippines. Is that exclusive to leaders like you, or is travel a given opportunity or premise when working with Merck?
Yeah, so travel is always an opportunity. It's not just restricted to a small circle of senior executives. We actually, some years ago, we used to have a global event. It was called the Elite Awards, and that was given to the best salespeople all across the world. And that also came with 1 year a trip to Germany to go and see our headquarters and engage and interact with our leaders. 1 year it was in South Africa. So there are always opportunities to do that, provided it makes sense for the job. But I would also say that we're very keen, like Zulig are as well, and discussed a few days ago, to keep sustainability in mind. So we don't want to have large carbon footprints. We have aims on reducing carbon output. So it's not restricted. It's always open for people as makes sense for the job, but we have to have our sustainability in mind.
Well, if it involves getting stuck in the airport for hours, I don't think travel is now the attraction. In any case, Henry, thank you very much for your time this morning. There's so much I want to cover, like CSR, but I'll give you, half a minute to just give your parting message to our viewers, if you would.
Yeah, thank you so much. So firstly, thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure to be here this morning. I hope this isn't the last time. I hope to be able to do this again in the future sometimes. I agree that there was a lot more that we could have spoken about. But yeah, I'd like to really finish with a message about what we would like to do in the Philippines. So we're so focused on our objective being as one for patients, creating, improving, prolonging lives. We're always looking to work with the societies that we're with, the communities. We're doing a lot more with PHAP, the industry association, and together with PHAP Cares to really focus on delivering back to the communities. We're discussing at the moment, for example, with the Mind Museum here in BGC about potential partnerships. So we're really keen on doing everything we can to support Philippines and Filipinos to develop. And we're really excited for the opportunities here together.
Okay, well, I promise you, I'll give you a second chance at bat for a rematch, and we'll see how that goes. But I'm certain that there'll be a lot to learn. Henry Wilson, thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you, Cito. You too.
Okay, that's Henry Wilson, General Manager, Merck Healthcare Philippines. Let's now go to our blessing for the week. It comes from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 34, verse 9, and it goes, Joshua, the son of Nun, was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him. Please lay your hands figuratively, literally on people, and be a blessing to them and be a blessing to yourselves. Have a good day. God bless you. Thank you for joining us here on Agenda. Please keep it here on One News.